Hello everyone, and welcome to the live stream. I hope that you're all doing good. Tonight, of course, we're going to be hanging out for a couple of hours, and we're going to be talking about a bunch of different stuff that has happened. And I've got to be honest, a lot of Clown World shit this week. Lots of follow-ups to topics that I've previously covered, Rings of Power, The Last of Us TV show, Hogwarts Legacy, Witcher. But, yeah, a lot to cover tonight. It was a little bit difficult narrowing it down, but we'll see how many topics we can get through. So, tonight we're going to be talking about Amazon in the Rings of Power. So, a couple of days ago, before the holidays, I had covered in a video their plans for Season 2 of the Rings of Power and how they haven't officially confirmed Season 3 yet, but they're pretty sure it's going to be confirmed, you know, in the early months of 2023. And I wanted to talk about this article that was like another section of that same interview where Vernon Sanders had doubled down on diversifying Middle-earth for the Rings of Power, Season 2, Season 3, just going forward in general. And he basically says that their plan is to not slow down, that they didn't really care about the feedback about Season 1, and they have these big plans for Season 2, and they think, you know, they've gone so far already, why would they go back? Even though people, of course, criticized Season 1 for not being Tolkien lore and source material accurate, they don't really care, they're not really listening to us, and he just kind of doubled down on the diversity of Middle-earth. And I always say this, I've said it a million times, diversity and inclusivity are good things in entertainment, and we do need representation in entertainment, but the way that these companies introduce representation is done very poorly, and they don't actually care about creating new stories and material to, you know, respectfully represent people. They just care about taking franchises that already have big names and putting as many different types of people in it as possible, hoping that it will catch on. And of course, it ends up being a shield. If we dislike the changes that they've made, they call us racist, sexist, all these different ists and phobes. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about The Last of Us, because the show comes out in a couple of weeks. Now, everybody feels very mixed on The Last of Us because, of course, The Last of Us Part 2 was pretty bad. It was kind of a disaster. They came out with The Last of Us Part 2, and people were very disappointed with the content that we got, especially because The Last of Us 1 was such a great game, at least in my opinion. And we've been hearing more about the series. We do know that, like, Joel's daughter is race swapped. As far as we know, her role isn't going to be changed any, but we know that they're not really actually following the game's story. They are taking things in their own direction, like where the game starts is different, the route that the characters take is different, so honestly, they could change anything in this show, and we know that they are. And another new piece of information has been revealed, that the series will not be as violent as the games. And of course, if you know The Last of Us, the games are pretty violent. You have all these different zombie creatures that you're fighting, that you're killing, but there's also a lot of kind of drama between the humans and the survivors, and they end up dying. Of course, Last of Us Part 2 killed off Joel. Human deaths, of course. But now we know that they have decided to tone down the content of the show, and they are making the show not as violent as the games, which of course is a massive departure from the source material. Also, if we get time to talk about it, we'll chat about it briefly, but Neil Druckmann also came out, I think it was today, and he basically said that the game, Last of Us Part 3, or the next Last of Us game, we don't know what it will be called, they are setting it up more like a movie. They're not pacing it like a video game, they're pacing it like a movie. So you can clearly tell kind of where they're taking this franchise in general, and in my opinion, that is not a good direction. But yeah, the show is going to be toned down, and it's going to be less violent than the games. We're also going to be talking about several hit pieces that have released over the past few days about Hogwarts Legacy. Of course, we are only 2 months away from the release of this game, and there are a lot of people that are very excited for it. Of course, though, media, games journalists are furious that there are a lot of people who are excited for this title. Basically, they want us to cancel it because, of course, J.K. Rowling created the Harry Potter universe, and they're trying to say that if you support this game, you're transphobic, just like she is. That's what their claim is. So of course, new hit pieces have been releasing, and the Mary Sue put out this very cringe-worthy article a couple days ago. 10 things you can buy instead of wasting your money on Hogwarts Legacy. And if you don't want to buy this game and you don't support JK, that is perfectly fine. That is your opinion. You are allowed to have that opinion. But instead of suggesting like good games or good material that you could consume instead, they do start off with saying something like Elden Ring, which is great. I think Elden Ring's a fantastic fucking game. But then they go completely off the rails and they talk about like costumes for your pets. You could buy pets, concert tickets. And then they also talk about sex toys. Why the Mary Sue thought that that was a good idea, I don't know. But of course, like clockwork, there's more hit pieces releasing for Hogwarts Legacy that make no fucking sense. And we are also going to be talking quite a bit about The Witcher. I've been covering it in videos over the past couple of days. The Witcher Blood Origin is finally out, and it is getting fucking annihilated. It's actually gone up by 1%. It's at a 9% average audience score right now. Wow, they're really doing great with this one. But it is now officially Netflix's lowest rated series. It has Netflix's worst audience scores of all time. And of course, like clockwork, the media is coming out in droves trying to defend this series. A recent Guardian article released that says that it is a profanity-packed fantasy that's a riot, but CBR put out an article titled Blood Origin Gets Review Bombed by both Henry Cavill and the original Witcher novel fans, which of course you're going to take heat from people that are Henry Cavill fans because you guys fucking fired him, and you're going to take heat from people who love the novels and games because they are just far superior and that's the material that you should be working with. And you decided to lore break. And The Gamer put out an article titled Blood Origin has an audience score of only 8%, but many of these reviews perpetuate racist, sexist, and ableist talking points. Classic entertainment journalists deciding to just call us ists because we simply do not like a show that doesn't follow the source material, that isn't good, and is hilariously, again, one of Netflix's worst rated pieces of content ever now. But yeah, those are the main topics that we're going to be chatting about tonight. I also have like a couple other smaller ones if we get time, like how Daredevil Born Again will attempt to appeal to a slightly younger audience, meaning it's also probably going to be toned down. The content in it is probably going to be cringe. I feel like I've had to use that word a lot lately. I hate the word cringe, but when we hear about content appealing to younger audiences, modern audiences, Western standards, anything like that, usually it's them just making it cringe. It's them trying to put in like, haha, Gen Z and Gen Z language and terms and all of these things, and ha ha ha, we're so funny. We put these like weird action sequences in the show, even though it's fucking trash. So, yeah, welcome on in, guys. I hope that your evening is going well. Welcome to the live stream. We'll get started with the topics in a minute or two, but that is what we are going to be covering tonight. Lots of bullshit. Yep, lots of bullshit. All-time record 9% score. I think at one point it was at 8. Yes, when it was at 8%, it was technically the lowest rated Netflix piece of content. But honestly, I don't even know if they've released anything that was even a 9%. But either way, it does now hold the record for the worst rated piece of Netflix content of all time, which honestly, it fucking deserves. I cannot believe that they thought this show was going to go well. I just, in no universe, no timeline, could see this working at all. And it's even more, I don't know, hilarious or pathetic, idiotic, any of these words, because originally it was supposed to be 6 episodes and then they cut it to 4, and it doesn't even deserve 4. Thank you, Clint, for the $5 super chat right at the beginning of stream. Much appreciated. To appeal to kids, they'll give Daredevil a motorcycle and he'll beat bad guys by doing stunts, probably. Thank you for the 5. There aren't a lot of details regarding what they mean by trying to appeal to a slightly younger audience, but first of all, that, of course, means that they're going to try to get the lowest age rating possible, meaning, like, blood and violence and gore, adult language are probably all going to be toned down. The general theme of the show is probably going to be toned down. I just don't see a way that a show like Daredevil could be successful without all of these things that are adult themed. I just don't really get it. I mean, maybe they'll find a way to pull it off, but they can't really pull off a lot of content now, so I don't really have a lot of faith in them, especially just hearing them use those terms like younger audience, which of course means sensitive snowflakes, cringeworthy dialogue, all those things. What is the best show, Rings of Power or Blood Origin? See, that is, it's kind of difficult, but at the same time, like, it's not. They are both fucking trash, but Rings of Power is slightly better because it at least at times kind of looks good, even though a lot of the CGI was really, really bad, and the music is good. Even though they reuse a lot of the same music over and over and over. So I would have to say it's like a 2 versus a 3, right? They're still both very fucking trash, but one is at least like a tiny bit better. Also, Rings of Power had like 2 good actors versus Blood Origin having 1 half decent actor. So, you know, a 2 versus a 3. Still really fucking bad. I thought Daredevil was a comic character, not a TV character. Well, Daredevil is a comic character that has a TV show. He's going to be Disney-fied, yes. That's probably the best way that we could put it, is that this series is going to be Disney-fied. Yeah, She-Hulk was also one of the worst pieces of content this year. Honestly, there's a lot. Alright, I'm putting a poll up. We can leave it up for a minute or two so you guys can chat about it. Worst of the year. I'm sure there's other things that we could throw into mix, but let's just, for the sake of simplicity, put them together. Honestly, it is tough. It is fucking tough. Because, like, Blood Origin changes the backstory of The Witcher and why the first Witcher was created, and everything about it is bad. But Rings of Power also doesn't follow source material and is just really bad. It's all very bad. And She-Hulk was just complete feminist propaganda that also looked bad. Vote worst of the year. I feel like Blood Origin is going to take it. Rings of Power was very fucking bad, though. But at least there were a few moments in there that I thought were okay. I don't know. They're all fucking trash. It is hard to compare trash with trash with trash. But alright, guys, let's get started with the first topic at hand, which is going to be Rings of Power. A couple of days ago, I talked about an interview that was released with the Amazon executive Vernon Sanders, and he was just doubling down on everything. He was saying that, you know, they want to listen to fans, even though, of course, we know they don't want to. And he, at the same time, said that, you know, they have a vision, they're proud of what they created with Season 1, and going into Season 2, they're really excited about what they're going to make. And even though Season 3 hasn't been officially announced yet, it should be released soon, yada yada, all that jazz. But this article, released a couple of days ago, that highlights a different part of that interview that I wanted to talk about. And it says Amazon exec Vernon Sanders doubles down on diversifying Middle-earth for Rings of Power Season 2. I say this anytime I talk about diversity or inclusivity. Diversity and inclusivity are great things, especially in entertainment. Everybody should be able to see a trait that they can relate with or a character they can relate with in entertainment, any form, any shape. But the problem is the way that Hollywood and these writers and producers and creatives introduce these characters. Instead of creating new original stories that represent these characters and different cultures and backstories, they decide to denigrate characters and erase characters that already exist and replace those characters, which is the problem. They do this time and time again with so many different shows, movies, video games, it doesn't matter. Any form of entertainment, that is just what these creatives do, even though they're not really creatives and they can't fucking do anything right, and they're trash at their jobs. But Rings of Power is no stranger to, you know, characters and stories being diversified, and they are doubling down on that going into Season 2. So it says Amazon Studios executive Vernon Sanders recently stated that the second season for The Rings of Power will double down on the first season's diversification of Middle-earth through its casting. In a brief interview with Deadline, he was asked from the Season 2 cast addition announcements so far, it appears that you are continuing to bring diversity to Middle-earth. Can you speak about that and tease more familiar characters from the lore that we can expect? I honestly don't know what direction they're going to take Rings of Power in at this point. I just don't see a way that they can turn it around. I understand that they're saying they want to stick more to the source material in Season 2 and they're excited about the future, but at the same time, they have already changed so much. They have already, you know, gone off that path, that Tolkien path. I just don't see a way that they could make Season 2 any better, unless they're going to completely erase Season 1's existence, and of course they've spent $1 billion on this show, they're not going to erase Season 1, but unless they completely fucking restart it, I don't see a way that they can make Season 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, any of them better, but they're insisting that they can. I don't believe that, though. He responded, "The series continues to be cast from all around the world. We think that that represents the show that we created in Season 1, and we're doing the same thing for Season 2. We are trying to find the best actor for the role." Now, obviously, I think that that is a good statement, but not for an existing property. If this was a brand new fantasy story and none of the characters' descriptions were ever described, I do think that, yes, the best actor, no matter what they look like, sound like, walk like, talk like, should get the job. But we're talking about an established set of characters and an established world, and that should be respected. So you should be casting the best person But to be the best person, you also have to fit into that character description, and that's, of course, not what they're doing with Rings of Power. I always say this, but if these creatives, don't like what they have to work with something like Rings of Power or Lord of the Rings, feel free to go and start your own series, write your own characters, but they can't because they have not a fucking creative bone in their bodies. It says we've already announced that there will be some characters from the lore. I don't think we've announced them all, so there are surprises to come. This is a problem for me because they're saying that there will be some characters from the lore. All of the characters should be from the lore. You shouldn't be throwing in your own new original characters unless they're like really small roles and they're side characters. Like that I would understand. Even that's a bit of a problem, but we are talking about tons of characters that are new. I mean, look at season 1. Half of the main characters were brand new, non-Tolkien characters. Go create your own franchise, do whatever you want with it, but don't fuck this one up. It says, not only did he reveal the show will continue to diversify Tolkien's Middle-earth through its casting, but he also tried to explain why the show hasn't been greenlit for a 3rd season, and he basically says that they're committed, they have every reason to be excited, they've done a tremendous job, blah, blah, blah. They should cancel the show. It is god awful. I just don't see how they can commit to 5 seasons. I know that they've said that, wow, season 1 did good and it was positive and we consider it successful. I just don't see how they can consider season 1 successful enough to do 5 more seasons of this show. It's got awful user reviews, mediocre critic reviews in a lot of cases, except for the shills that love it. People talk about this show negatively more than they do positively. I've said it from the beginning, and I know that I sound like a broken record at this point. I don't see a way that they're going to do 5 seasons of this show. They're talking about how they're committed. Whatever. I think they'll stop at 3, and I am still sticking with that. I think they'll do 3 seasons. I think after season 2... they'll announce they're doing a 3rd season and they've decided to keep it in the vein of the other films and they're going to do a trilogy series and, they just felt like it represented their story more. I think they'll come up with a bunch of excuses. I just don't see a way they're going to do 5. I could see them doing 3 and then maybe a direct-to-streaming movie, but that's also speculation. I've also said this before, I think they're going to rename this show. I think that season 2 will be called Rings of Power, and then season 3 will be called something else, or if they do 5 seasons, the 3 will be called Rings of Power, and then the last 2 will be called something different. There'll be a big time jump. They'll try to revamp the show, but that's all speculation at this point. But as you can see, Vernon Sanders thinks that everyone needs to give season 2 a chance. They have these big ideas. They're doubling down on diversifying Middle-earth, which I think is a bad direction to go. I really think that after season 1, they needed to reevaluate. And they're clearly not doing that because they're already starting to film season 2. We've seen pictures floating around the internet the past few days of them, putting up sets and filming and all this. I think that it is a majorly bad idea, the direction that they've gone in not listening to consumers. I think that Rings of Power could still be saved, and I don't say that lightly, but I think if they really went back to the drawing board, they dropped some of the side stories that are going on and some of the drama, and they do make the battles bigger in season 2 and the sets look better, the costumes look better. I do think that this show could go from like a 3 to a 6. I don't think that it could be a 10. I don't think that it could be amazing, but I think that they could save it in some way, shape, or form, but that's not really what Amazon's focusing on at this point. They're doubling down on the first season's diversification, and I think it's going to go terribly for them. I just don't see a way that this is going to fix the Rings of Power in people's eyes. So, yeah. Those are my thoughts on that article. What are you guys thinking about it? Let me scroll up. The problem with their idea of diversity is that it is only from their personal idea of diversity, woke American diversity. That is very, very true. Good point. I think She-Hulk won because not many people in here are watching Blood Origin. I do agree, Ben. I think that poll was rigged, and I think that people voted She-Hulk because people were more excited for She-Hulk and gave it more of a chance originally. But it's really fucking bad. Honestly, I don't know which is my worst of the year, if it would be Rings of Power or Blood Origin. I still, even though I think that some of Rings of Power was still slightly better, for me, I would still probably have to say Rings of Power because I have so much nostalgia and love for Tolkien's work, and while I love the Witcher games, I love the novels, I think The Witcher is amazing. For me, Witcher still doesn't compare to Tolkien's work. I just still think that Tolkien's work is leagues above Witcher, so for me, I still think that my heart is more broken over Rings of Power and how bad it was. It could be saved, but it won't be. Yeah, I maybe I'm too hopeful and positive in some ways. I still think that there could be a way that they could save Rings of Power. Again, I don't think that it would be a fucking 9 or a 10, but I think that they could make it like a 6 or a 7. I think that they could do away with like the stupid Harfoot side story, the drama between Disa and Durin and Elrond and the Dwarven King, and I think that they could just kind of, I don't know, repace the show and maybe get rid of some of these half-assed stupid side characters, and I don't know. I don't even really want to say fix it, because I don't think they could fix it, but I think that they could, I don't know, sprucing it up a little bit. Yeah, Amazon did really trash Tolkien. I'd still have to say that Rings of Power is still worse than Blood Origin, because I just, you know, if I could only pick, you know, one series for the rest of my life, it would be Lord of the Rings. It would be Tolkien. Sorry, Andre. I think that Witcher is fan-fucking-tastic, but Lord of the Rings is still my number one. Tolkien wrote a Bible story. That's why it's so great. I don't agree. I mean, obviously, yes, he took heavy inspiration, but I mean, not all of his books were Bible-based or Christianity-based. I mean, yes, a lot of his base world and some of the stories and figures took inspiration, but there were so many other characters that were inspired from other, like, Irish folk tales and legendary characters and legendary heroes and figures. You are very optimistic, which is a good trait to have. Unfortunately, I try to be optimistic. It's just there's not a lot of room for optimism. He took inspiration from a lot of things, and again, while a lot of his characters and story was based on Christianity, I don't think it's fair to say it is successful because it takes heavy inspiration from the Bible or Christianity. I just don't think that that's fair. Because again, he had a lot of work that was based on a lot of different legendary figures and stories and mythology. I wouldn't just say like it's an easy one-to-one to compare. It is definitely a very, it would be a very long conversation. It can't be fixed. They need to drop the title and start from scratch. I think that they will change the name of the Rings of Power. I don't think they'll call it Rings of Power for all 3 or 5 seasons. Nah, you're wrong. That's okay. I think you're wrong. It's your opinion. It's my opinion. Can agree to disagree. You need to read more. You need to not be rude. Thanks. I'm not saying I have a problem with the fact that a lot of his work is biblical. His work is some of my favorite content I've ever consumed in my life. I just wouldn't say that it's fair to say it's a one-to-one. Because it's not. I think they would need a total rebrand. Yeah, I think that they will, at some point, rebrand the show without, you know, making it another show. I think we'll still have the same actors and actresses and story. I do think that there will be probably a time gap, and there will be like a noticeable time gap. Because right now in like Rings of Power Season 1, they cover a lot of different events over a long period of time, but they try to make you feel like it's all supposed to be happening within the span of like a month, even though it's clearly not supposed to be. I think that there will be like between seasons like a big time gap where it's like hundreds of years or whatever. No, just give up. I can go on this forever. Take a 300-second break. Come back. Don't be rude. You have your opinions. I have mine. Everybody's got their own opinions, and that's okay. No need to be rude about it. Rest in peace. Yeah, take a few. Take a few minutes. If it has the name Amazon in the title, they've already lost. Well, right. It's not going to change to another company. It's always going to be an Amazon show. But I do think that they could most certainly try to rebrand it, even though it's never going to be a 10, no matter what they do at this point. But alright guys, let's move on to the next topic, which is going to be another franchise ruined. The Last of Us. I've talked a lot about The Last of Us on the channel. Unfortunately, The Last of Us has gone in a very bad direction. I loved The Last of Us 1. I thought it was a fantastic game, fantastic characters and story development. But The Last of Us Part 2 really killed the franchise for me. I like to pretend that it doesn't exist, that Naughty Dog didn't mess up the way that they did. And we've all been listening to the news surrounding this show. It comes out in a couple of weeks. There are a lot of people that are very excited for it. I'm honestly not that excited for it. I'm feeling very hesitant. But now we're hearing some new information that has me really worried, and that is that The Last of Us co-creator reveals the series will not be as violent as the games, which is definitely not a good statement, that's for sure. Obviously, The Last of Us has a lot of violence in many different ways. It's got violence against these zombie creatures, but it's also got human-on-human violence. Violence is just part of the games, it's part of the universe. And, well, they have decided to go in a different direction with the show, leaving us with a hell of a lot more questions. So, it says, in post-apocalyptic video game franchises where the world has gone nuts, with mankind attacking each other and varying creatures and beasts roaming unchallenged, violence is usually at the center of the gameplay. With the adaptation of The Last of Us, which is based on a PlayStation franchise of the same name where violence was central to the gameplay, many had wondered just how much of the action will be fused into the new series. I really love The Last of Us. Again, the first game was great. But violence is a major part of it. I mean, it's a video game. You have different weapons. You have guns. You kill things. That's just how the video game is. And to act like that isn't the case, or like you can drastically change that, means it's not The Last of Us. It says, though, with the series set to release in January, I believe it's like January 23rd or 24th, The Last of Us co-creator and Naughty Dog co-president Neil Druckmann has revealed how much of the vivid, detailed violence of the franchise viewers will get to see. See, this is the problem, is that Neil Druckmann is the co-creator and co-president of The Last of Us. He shouldn't be. Neil Druckmann has done terribly with Naughty Dog, with The Last of Us. I mean, he is the main reason why the second game was such a big problem, why they went in the direction they went in, because of course they consulted people like Anita Sarkeesian, and Neil Druckmann is a massive social justice warrior who doesn't actually listen to fans of this franchise. But it says, speaking about the project, he revealed that the Last of Us series will be scaling back on the level of violence it depicts on the show, which is just the complete wrong direction to go in. We need a certain amount of action or violence that we could use for mechanics so you could connect with Joel and get into a flow state. He says then you would really feel like you're connected with this on-screen avatar and you're seeing the world through his eyes. If you have ever played the video games, it says you can attest to the amount of detail infused in the violent animations of Joel fighting off hordes of enemies and threats to himself and his world-altering mission. The series co-creator, Neil Druckmann, then goes on to explain the reasoning behind cutting back on the violence and when the decision to do so was taken by the creative minds behind the series. He explains, but that doesn't exist in a passive medium. One of the things I've loved hearing from the other co-creator and HBO very early on was, let's take out all the violence except for the very essential. That allowed the violence to have even more impact than in the game, because when you hold on showing the threat and you're seeing people's reactions to a threat, that makes it scarier. So he admits that right off the bat, they all wanted to remove the violence from the from the show, which is a massive problem. And you would think that one of the co-creators of this show and also the game would be completely against that they would be like, absolutely not. That isn't what our video game is. That isn't what the show should be. That isn't our franchise. But Neil Druckmann has no backbone, and he is so happy that he got a chance to help co-create the show that he doesn't even care about respecting the original material and the original creation that people fell in love with in the first place. He was so gung-ho about HBO doing the show that he basically bent over backwards and says, you can do whatever the hell you want with this series. I'm all for whatever you guys want. And that is why this show is going to face major backlash, at least I think. Obviously, massive franchise. I think there will be a lot of people who will love this show and who will defend it till the ends of the earth, just like Last of Us 1, Last of Us 2. But I do think that this show is going to face a lot of heat, and this is a major reason why. Again, the video games had a lot of violence. Violence was a central mechanic. It was extremely important to the story, the way that it progressed, the pacing. And now they've just decided, let's take out almost all of the violence. They're trying to tone it down. And I honestly think that that's because of normies. And I don't like calling people normies all that often. But people who play video games are used to violence in video games. We don't really think it's that big of a problem. But for people who are just watching the show, they might go, wow, there's a lot of violence that makes me feel uncomfortable, and they want those people to watch this series. Now, of course, that's not gonna work because the people know the video games, they know that there's a lot of violence, and they're gonna say, I don't want to give this a chance because I know the content that's in the originals, and they're going to, you know, say, oh, that's disgusting, I'm not gonna support it, and they're just pushing actual viewers like us away. But yeah, I think that they really tried to tone this show back so that they could get normies to watch it. That's why they made all these casting decisions, people like Pedro Pascal, Bella Ramsey, because they're going, you know what, we've got the most normie cast that we can figure out. We want it to appeal to these people as well. It says in a previous interview with IGN, he had hinted that the show will in fact move away from its hardcore action, saying HBO's been great in pushing us to move away from the hardcore action. That should not be a good thing. As a creative, you should not be saying that's a good thing. HBO's been great in pushing us to move away from the very thing that made our franchise successful in the first place. I just don't have any respect for these people. That's the problem, is fuck Neil Druckmann. You are literally praising a company who's taking away your creative freedom, who is saying your original content is bad, and you're basically trying to suck these people off. You're saying, you know what, I love you, you're so right, this is great, you know what, you know what's best. And that's the problem. Fuck Neil Druckmann. Fuck the people at Naughty Dog who are, you know, again, bending over backwards for these companies. I have lost almost any interest I had in this show. I was hopeful that they'd really try to stick to the original story and the pacing of the game, and they'd try to keep everything as close to the original content as possible. But as we can see, they don't actually want to do that, and they don't really care about respecting the original content that made this franchise successful in the first place. But yeah, very fun, guys. If you were excited for The Last of Us show, well, you might not be now because, well, it's not going to be as violent. They're not keeping the original pacing. All of these major problems. Fancy Pants Pikachu. Well, I'll forgive the temporary ban because I do like this channel. Well, I'm glad that you like this channel and that you're a viewer of it. But yes, I am entitled to my opinion. Everybody in this chat is entitled to their own opinion. You are entitled to your own opinion, but you're being rude, and we don't allow that here. So, thanks for watching. I appreciate it, but you are being massively disrespectful, and that is not okay. Bye! Neil Druckmann, no comment. Vera Susan told me you were trouble. I can believe it. That's the thing, is I'm saying I can't believe Neil Druckmann would do this, but I can because he's a piece of shit. This show was a mistake. Fun is not allowed when Cuckman's around. It's just so disgusting that people like Neil Druckmann are willing to sell out for these companies. They don't actually care about respecting their original material. They don't actually care about respecting fans. They just are looking for money. And I get that. Everybody wants money. Money's great. Money makes the world go round. But you're not going to make money, and you're not going to keep your consumers around if you allow people to trash the content that you've created. Most shows are mistakes. Yeah, it is true. It's depressing, but yeah. They're terrified of being canceled. Yeah, I mean, that's how people are. Creatives, producers, directors, developers, actors, everybody. They're all afraid of being canceled. But, I mean, these are the people who listen to idiots like Anita Sarkeesian. So, I don't know, you get what you fucking deserve. This show is gonna get roasted when it comes out. Obviously, again, there's gonna be people who are gonna love it. There's also going to be people who are going to roast it, and they deserve all of that. The Last of Us 2 killed any interest in all of it for me. I have an unopened copy of The Last of Us that I'll probably never open at this rate. The first game was awesome. I always tell people, play the first game. It was great. It was an amazing start to a new franchise. It's 2 that was the problem. And I like to pretend that 2 doesn't exist because it just pisses me off so much thinking about The Last of Us Part 2 and how fucking awful it was. Chris! Oh my god, Chris, you're gonna drive me nuts! Anita should never be listened to, just gazed at. Chris, you gotta go to horny jail, my friend. I'm sorry, but how can you like Anita? At least you're admitting that you hate women, though, because you don't even want to listen to her. You just want to gaze at her. They should have gotten her for G4. I would have watched G4 if Anita Sarkeesian was on it. I would have loved that. I could have made 100 fucking videos on her dumb shit that she says. That would have been great. I would be at easily 100k subscribers right now. If they ever want to reboot G4 for a 3rd time and bring Anita on, they should do it all. They should bring Anita, Zoe Quinn, bring them all. I only gaze at Frost. You guys have your priorities very backwards. Anita on G4. They should have done it. If they were gonna go, 75% in, they should have just went 100% in. They should have just, that's why it would be G4. So first of all, if they keep rebooting it, they're eventually gonna get to a G4. But it'd be like Gamergate. They should have put another G, and then they should have put 4, so it would be GG4. And then we could bring people like Zoe and Anita and Brianna Wu on. I mean, none of them have careers at this point. I mean, what the fuck are they doing? They've been doing nothing with their lives. I mean, they are middle-aged women at this point. They are wasting away. Is that too far? At least Brianna Wu's tried like 20 times to run for Massachusetts Senate. She's lost every time, but at least she's tried, right? A for effort. Chris is building an Anita shrine? Probably. G4 was an epic disaster. Yeah, that definitely went really interestingly. It was a very enlightening time. Yeah, she's tried to run multiple times and she's lost every time. And we're not talking about like, wow, she got really close. I mean, it was like a 80-20. Not even. She's tried. I guess it's credit where credit is due. But, alright guys, next we're going to be talking about Hogwarts Legacy. Of course, I've been talking about this game quite a bit on the channel. Everyone has seemingly been pretty excited for it. But game journalists and the gaming media, entertainment media in general, has been infuriated by this game. They have been trying to find every angle to cancel this title from. They've tried to guilt people into not playing it. Because, there's developer crunch behind the scenes. They've, of course, tried to get people to not play it because J.K. Rowling created the Harry Potter universe. And they've tried to create basically every excuse under the sun. And now, of course, there's a brand new wave of articles releasing. This is going to happen like once every 2 to 3 weeks because we're getting pretty close to the official launch. It releases February... does this article say? Classic. It doesn't. It's like February 17th? Yeah, it's the 10th or the 17th. Actually, it might be the 10th. Anyway, releases in February. So we're getting pretty close to launch. And they are desperate to get people to cancel this game. But I thought that we could just you know, kind of chat about some of the new hit pieces that have come out. So this is one. Game Rant, JK is forcing an impossible decision on Harry Potter fans with Hogwarts Legacy. Now this is fucking classic, right? Because they are now trying to blame JK. They're saying JK is forcing an impossible decision on Harry Potter fans. These same people have been doing that for fucking months. These journalists have been forcing impossible decisions onto fans. They have been trying to guilt people into not buying this game. You shouldn't buy it. You shouldn't play it. If you do, you support her views. You support her. You support this disgusting individual. They are doing the same thing they are now trying to accuse her of, which is just fucking hilarious. I've talked about JK a lot on the channel. People have very mixed opinions on her, and that's perfectly fine. Again, we can all agree to disagree. I'm kind of mixed with J.K. Rowling. She, of course, is a feminist, and she decided many years ago to change around her work by making, like, Dumbledore gay, hoping to get the social justice crowd to love her and support her, and hilariously enough, she has now gotten eaten alive by those very people who have now tried to cancel her, but at the end of the day, she's allowed to have her own opinions. And she's, of course, been called a TERF. She's been called disgusting things and been doxxed and harassed simply because she thinks, you know, there's two biological genders. There's males and females. God forbid. But it says there are quite a lot of Harry Potter games. There's like 3, isn't there? But Hogwarts Legacy seems to be shaping up to be one of the greatest yet. Hogwarts Castle is an immersive place where gamers play as 5th-year students with solid customization options, housing, detailed classes, spells, and much more. Though the game seems very appealing, JK has increasingly associated herself with Hogwarts Legacy. Well, of course she has. It's her fucking creation, and even though she hasn't, you know, worked directly on this game, it's still her world. It's still her creations that people are working with. She does deserve to talk about the game if she wants. It says this has made it hard for gamers to decide whether they should purchase the game in light of her transphobic views. Fucking clown world. These are people who claim to want representation and diversity and want everybody to get along. They say, oh, everybody needs to get along with each other, but it's the classic, well, I don't like you and you should be canceled if your opinions don't align with mine. Ultimately, what each gamer decides to do is their own decision, as it is certainly not a black and white decision for those raised on the IP, though things have not been made easier by her recent comments on Twitter. Of course, trying to grab at what she says and try to cancel her and her creation over it for 100th time. She believes in biological sciences? I know, God forbid. It says, fortunately, Hogwarts Legacy is not written by her, and the game goes to great lengths to be gender inclusive, which I did talk about this in a video, I think it was like 2 months ago, but the developers have many times tried to distance themselves from her creation, which I think is fucking gross, because, like, it's the same situation with H.P. Lovecraft's work, how they tried to do they've tried to do other shows and projects based on his work, but while also saying that he was, you know, a transphobic, bigot, sexist, anything under the sun. If you don't like this person's work, then don't fucking work on their projects. But you know, the Hogwarts Legacy developers have tried many, many times to distance themselves from her, and they've even tried to slap her with some pretty shitty decisions, like the fact that they didn't put gender in this game to be more inclusive and to basically go against her viewpoints. But it says, it references, you know, the gender inclusivity, which has been seen with the character creator. She no doubt benefits from it, given her wealth, but it should also be noted that the development of this game began back in 2017. The earliest comments revealing her anti-trans stance seems to date back to 2019, meaning there are a lot of unknown variables as far as how aware Warner Brothers was of her views, which I think that this is fucking funny because they are trying to paint this as maybe Warner Brothers wouldn't have gone ahead with this game if they knew her opinions. Shut up. We know, and there are a lot of rumors that have said this over the past couple of weeks, that Warner Brothers is trying to get J.K. Rowling to sign for more projects. They do not give a fuck really about her opinions. Of course, publicly they've said we don't share all of her views, but they're also behind the scenes trying to get her to sign on for new movies and TV shows because they need her work, because her work is pretty great and it makes them money. So it's funny that they're trying to paint it as, well, maybe Warner Brothers wouldn't have worked with her. Of course they would have. They make her money. Do you, Game Rant, make Warner Brothers money? No. Then they don't care about your opinion. I mean, come on. The game distances itself from JK. No. The developers tried to distance themselves from JK, and every time they have gotten absolutely laughed at and roasted for it because, again, it's her work, it's her world, it's her creation. If you don't like somebody's work, don't use their material. I always say this. If you don't like H.P. Lovecraft's work, if you don't like J.K. Rowling's work, and you think someone is an ist or a phobe or this or that, don't sign up for a project based on their work. You know that they're going to make money, or their, legacy, their family members, they're going to make money from it. So okay, you might not like J.K. Rowling and her personal stances, but you're the one who signed a contract to work on this Hogwarts Legacy game, knowing it was going to be a Hogwarts Legacy game. Quit. Get off the project. If you feel so strongly about going against her viewpoints, don't work on it. Quit. Go somewhere else. Go make your own game. Go make something that's even a tenth as successful as her work. But they don't, because they don't care. Because these people are just virtue signalers. That's the issue with them. All they're doing is virtue signaling. And of course, it circles back to the conversation of the fact that they don't want to get canceled. And, I understand that. But don't act high and mighty when you're literally working with her creation because you want money. It's icky. In recent years, her once pristine legacy has taken a nosedive. What has begun as little clues that she may harbor trans exclusionary views has become a position that she publicly and firmly stands by. Oh no, she thinks that men are men and women are women and there's only two genders? Hey, like I always say, everybody, I've had to say it a lot tonight because of trolls, but everybody is allowed to have their own opinion. Again, I don't agree with everything that J.K. Rowling's ever said. I don't agree with every move that she's ever made in her entire career. But I'm talking about Hogwarts Legacy and defending it because ultimately she is allowed to have her own opinion. And that doesn't mean that, I think that we should necessarily cancel this game over it. I don't agree with everything she's ever done. But it's a project that she is not working on, If all these activists were really sincere, they'd never watch another Warner Brothers movie since Warner Brothers is releasing the game. Exactly, and I always say that. Yes, they do point out that it is not black and white. It is not just an easy situation that's a yes or a no. But these people don't stand by what they preach. If you really hate the fact that they're working with her, don't talk about this game. Even if it's an article like this, why you shouldn't buy this game and why people are feeling conflicted, you shouldn't be talking about the game at all whatsoever. If you are so deathly against it, don't talk about it at all. Or if you're going to talk about it once. And my main issue isn't even really with these journalists, it's with the developers. Because again, if you don't want to support her work, then quit. You don't have to work on this game. It's as simple as that. But anyway, guys, yeah, new Hogwarts Legacy hit pieces. Oh, also this article came out, which I don't really want to read, but I wanted to show it to you all. The Mary Sue decided to put out this article, 10 things you can buy instead of wasting your money on Hogwarts Legacy, and they do start out with saying you could buy something like a long fantasy RPG like Elden Ring. I think Elden Ring is great. If you want to buy Elden Ring instead of Hogwarts Legacy, you go for it. It is your own decision. It is your own choice. But the problem is that the rest of the article is just a fucking joke. They talk about buying costumes for your pets and fancy cocktails and concert tickets. And then they decide to talk about buying sex toys. Wizard sex toys. Which is just cringe and just weird. It's like, really? That's what you're gonna suggest? Instead of actually giving people a legitimate list, like other good games that are like maybe similar. No, they just decide to make it a joke, which is why people think that they're a fucking joke. So yeah, that's all that I really had to talk about with Hogwarts Legacy chat. Next, we're gonna move into The Witcher, which is gonna be the final topic of the evening. Besides maybe like a quick side one. But yeah, if you're enjoying the live stream, guys, before we move on, if you're enjoying the live stream, make sure to give it a like. If you're not, give it a dislike. Check out the links in the description and the pinned comment. Become a member. Donate memberships. Donate via Streamlabs. Super chat. All the fun stuff. And thanks for being here, guys. I do really appreciate it. Witcher Blood Origin. Let's refresh the score to see if it's gone up or down at all. It hasn't. It hasn't. Well, technically it's gone up by 1%. But, well, yeah. What are they, prepping for a Blizzard office party? Yeah, I mean, listen. Just as bad. Hey, maybe these journalists put out articles because they're mad that they can't get into those parties. Maybe if someone invited them to a party every once in a while. The cocaine and hooker parties, maybe they'd be a little happier, you know? Blood Origin equals Witcher in name only. Yes, I 100% agree. It doesn't even deserve the name Witcher, but it has it, and we need to unfortunately accept that. But it is fucking awful. This has to be one of the worst shows I have ever seen. Thanks for stopping by, Joe. I hope that your evening goes well. Yeah, that's the Mary Sue website, which it's not like it's a surprising article releasing by them, but it's nice to highlight how just awful they are. So yeah. Anyway, guys, let's talk about Witcher Blood Origin. I've been talking about it quite a bit on the channel. I've put up I think 3 or 4 videos on it at this point. The show came out on Christmas Day. They thought that it would be a Christmas miracle, and Netflix got a Christmas nightmare. Because now the show has one of Netflix's worst audience scores of all time. And honestly, it deserves it. I mean, this show is fucking terrible. There is nothing redeeming about this show. The writing is awful, the dialogue is awful, the pacing is bad, the music is like non-existent, the costumes and sets are bad, the acting isn't even good. There's nothing about this show that I can say, wow, you know what, that's at least okay. It deserves like a 5%. But it now has Netflix's worst audience score of all time, which is fucking hilarious. We knew that this show was going to face a lot of heat, okay? First of all, Henry Cavill. I don't think I need to explain the situation. But after they fired Henry Cavill, or he at least moved on from the mothership show, we knew that this series was going to take a lot of heat. We knew that it was going to face some pretty big boycotts because people were upset. And, well, people are honestly a little more upset than I thought. And to pair with the Henry Cavill situation, it's also just the worst show ever fucking created. Or at least one of the worst shows ever created. But yeah, what once seemed like it could be Netflix's answer to Game of Thrones seems like it's in serious trouble. The Witcher has lost Henry Cavill as its star after next season, and its first attempt at trying to expand its universe with a new live-action show seems to be going disastrously. I love The Witcher. I mean, I have all of the books right there behind me, except for the one I'm currently reading. I've played all the video games. They're awesome. Unfortunately, though, the show's really gone downhill. The first 2 seasons of the base show were good. They weren't amazing. They weren't disastrous. They had some major problems. They weren't as good as they could have been. But I still liked them. I still thought that there was a lot of potential there. I'm a broken record tonight. It reminds me of The Force Awakens. Also, it's been 6 years since Carrie Fisher passed away today. I thought The Force Awakens was a good base to a trilogy, and then, of course, Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker were the worst fucking movies I've ever had to watch and made me want to pour bleach in my eyes, but it was a good base to a trilogy or a movie series, and, well, we see how that went. But The Witcher Season 1 and 2 had things that were good about them, even though it wasn't perfect. But the Blood Origin series that has now come out, there's no way to save this. It says, what the good news first is that it is currently the #1 show on Netflix, indicating it's got great viewership, but, I mean, let's be honest, it's only been out for 2 days, and it came out on Christmas weekend, so people were home, and it was the only thing that they released on that day, so it kind of makes sense that it was #1. But it says what people are actually watching may make them wish they hadn't bothered. Right now, in addition to having pretty poor critic scores, it has literally the worst audience scores for a Netflix original, as this writer says, that I've ever seen, which, I don't think that there's any other Netflix original that's ranked even close to being this low. It says, while a 35% from critics on Rotten Tomatoes is certainly not great, I suppose technically I've seen worse, but for audience scores, I've never seen a 9% before. Yeah, theater raises a good question. Blood Origin is really #1 on Netflix. It is. It does have the #1 spot for TV shows, but of course, it's Netflix. They could have just put that shit there. They haven't released any numbers. They're probably not going to release any numbers. They could have literally just artificially inflated the viewership so that it would spike to #1 and so that maybe they could get more people to watch it and it wouldn't be a failure, or they could at least maybe make some money back on it, but it's Netflix, so don't fucking trust them. It says, well, I already read that section. The last time I was writing about a series with an all-time low audience score on Netflix, it was the now canceled Resident Evil series, which had a 22% from audiences. Again, one of the worst pieces of entertainment that I have seen this year. It was fucking awful. This show is worse. And that's saying something. All of these piles of trash have come out and their scores are similar, but still different. It says, back then, I just hadn't seen anything close to that even among other lambasted series. Even shows that were universally thought of as pretty bad oftentimes ended up liked more by audiences than critics, like Jupiter's Legacy, which had a 41% critic score and a 77% audience. I wasn't really that surprised with Witcher doing so bad because, yes, Critic scores and audience scores usually are different. Usually critics will rate something high, audiences will rate it low, or vice versa. But when critics released their reviews last week and said that it was like a 35%, or whatever it initially launched at, 35 or 37, I figured at that point that it wouldn't be the opposite for users. Users wouldn't give it like a 70 or 80. I figured it was going to be lower than the critics, but I thought it was going to be like a 20 to a 25%. And of course now it's an 8 to a 9. I mean, it went down to a 7 at one point for a couple of hours, and it had been sitting in an 8. It's up to a 9 now. Netflix is putting their bots on. But yeah, it is doing terribly right now. If we go on over to the user scores, as you can see, 33% critic, 9% audience, but I also wanted to show you guys these two reviews. CBR, Comic Book Resources, said Netflix's The Witcher Blood Origin gets review bombed by fans of both Cavill and the original Witcher novels author, which it deserves to take criticism. It deserves the heat that it's getting, but the gamer decided to attack us like normal, classic fucking journalists. Blood Origin has an audience score of only 8%, but many of these reviews perpetuate racist, sexist, and ableist talking points. Always have to say it, but that's the only reason why diversity is the big thing in Hollywood right now. Again, diversity and inclusion are good things, but Hollywood's only hiring the most diverse cast so that they can use it as shields. You know, now, oh, you're a racist if you don't like the show, you're a sexist if you don't like the show, you're ableist if you don't like the show. It says Blood Origin seeks to explore the beginnings of the world, unpacking the conjunction of the spheres, which isn't accurate, the very first Witcher, which they decided to change, and the pre-collapsed elven civilization, which is also different. However, this deep dive into The Witcher's past has become Netflix's lowest scored show to date, sitting at an only 8%, and it deserves that. It is so bad. But, of course, like clockwork, it's saying, but while it's number one, because Netflix put it at number one, the people watching it don't seem to be enjoying it. However, digging into many of the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes and other sites, a common thread pops up: anger at diversity and the woke agenda, with many upset at the use of sign language, meaning that many of these reviews come from racist, sexist, and ableist standpoints. Now, first of all, it doesn't really... I understand why they put sign language into it. Why someone in the Witcher universe would be using American Sign Language doesn't make a lot of sense to the show, because it's not the same thing. But classic, where are all these examples? You know, they're saying that in these threads, many of the reviews are racist, sexist, ableist. You know, many of the reviews are saying they're angry at the diversity and the woke agenda. Where are your examples? I would love to see these examples, because I've covered the reviews in 2 videos now. I made a video yesterday and the day before on the show, and I read several reviews. I scrolled by maybe 1 or maybe 2 that were mad at the diversity. I honestly didn't even see really anyone talk about like any of these things. I mean, we know that journalists are fucking liars, but you know. Oh, here come the 5 stars! Oh, here come the 5 stars, guys. Surely these are real reviews. Definitely worth watching. You get to see the first Witcher, which is amazing to me, and I enjoyed the storyline. The first Witcher is not source material accurate, but okay. People only hate on it because of the whole Henry Cavill thing. Let's look at how many other movies they've reviewed. Any other shows that they've reviewed. Only The Witcher and Avatar. They rated Avatar. What'd they say about Avatar? Oh, it's not gonna show me. Drats. They gave it a 5. They must really love it. But, only thing they've rated, show-wise, classic. A 5! Maybe we don't have Cavill, but this series shows the huge background of The Witcher in a very entertaining way. These people, it's so fucking funny. These people are fucking so funny! I love these people! They don't even know what they're talking about, because they're talking about maybe we don't have Cavill. He was never gonna be in this show in the first place. This isn't the show that he was fired from. This isn't the show. Maybe we don't have Cavill. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. You don't have Cavill in this, and we were never expecting Cavill in this. Yes, there are people who are rating this series negatively because Cavill was fired from the other show, but you're presenting it as people are only mad because Cavill was fired from this one. That's not the case, though. A 4 out of 5. I had rather low expectations about this series, but it surprised, and I liked it. Though it could have 1 to 2 episodes longer in order, give a little more depth. Very, very in-depth review. What do you like about it? Why did you give it a 4-star? You didn't say. Why did you give it a 5-star? Because you think the actors did a good job. Why did you give it a 5-star? You didn't really say. Okay, classic. I'm reading the positive ones because honestly, I've read so many of the negative ones that we already know what the negative ones say. A 5. A 5. I'll preface this by saying I haven't read the books. Your opinion is fucking invalid, Nancy G. What else have you reviewed? They gave Strange World a 4 out of 5. Captain Marvel a 5 out of 5. You are... Okay. Okay, listen. Absolutely discarded opinion. Okay, shut up, Nancy. Oh, Jesus Christ. 5 out of 5 for Captain Marvel. 5 out of 5. 3 out of... I hate people. They gave it a 5, but they said a 3 out of 5 overall. What else have you reviewed, Julie? Nothing. Classic. Okay, classic. 5. Previous reviewers' grades are completely unfair. My actual grade is an 8, but I gave it a 10. Shut the fuck up. What else have you reviewed, Marco? Nothing. Classic. I mean, we could do this all night, and we're not gonna. But you know, I just thought we'd... It's okay, not the worst, but you gave it a 5. I just thought that we could be positive, you know? We could read everyone's positive reviews because there's so many. I mean, all of these reviews are just so positive. I thought we could read a few. But yeah, guys, I'll probably be talking about The Witcher again tomorrow, so stop by for that video. But those are the topics that we had to discuss tonight, chat. If you have any questions or topics you want me to discuss, put them in chat. I'd be happy to answer. But yeah, I thought that, you know, reading the positive ones was fun. 5 out of 5. Although some of the writing is poor, the story is compelling and characters are wonderful. A 5 out of 5 when you're admitting that the writing is poor. What else have you reviewed, Dan? Oh, look, absolutely fucking nothing. Gee whiz. Oh, he did review one other thing. Damn, these bots are good. 5 out of 5 for She-Hulk. They didn't even write anything that time. Poor writing, 5 out of 5. Good for the action and drama. People overthink and overanalyze too much. I'm gonna click on Raphael's scores. Now, if he has given She-Hulk, Rings of Power, Captain Marvel, anything like that, a 5 out of 5, I'm gonna report his review. Oh, he didn't. Oh, he got lucky. His account's safe for now. A couple of these are... Okay. Lots of fun, not too serious, and some great lines. 5 out of 5. I think it's funny to look at their ratings to kind of point out who's a bot and who's not. Oh, okay. Just classic brand new account. No big deal. For not a lot of source material on this, I think a good cast was put together to tell an entertaining story. I was enthralled from beginning to end. Isn't it E-N? That's not how you spell enthralled, is it? Oh, it is. I learned something today. Okay. One is just slightly different, even though you can use them interchangeably. Very good. I really enjoyed it. 5 out of 5. It's so funny because all of these are new accounts. They're not actually people. They're not actually people. And, like, I get that there's, like, a lot of negative ones, too. And I'm sure that people are creating accounts specifically for this show. But my problem is that, look at these. 1 star. This person gives a description. 1 star. This person gives a description. But these 5 stars aren't giving descriptions. I only take people who give descriptions seriously. And these people are not. We won't see the Warhammer thing for years. Very true. We're not going to see the Warhammer series for like 2 to 3 years. And even when we do, I don't know if it'll be good. I hope it's good. I want it to be good. But it's Amazon. And I really, really don't trust Amazon. The new people, Langoliers. I hate the Langoliers. Listen. I don't want to talk about the Langoliers, right? But I hate the Langoliers because there was a time, and we don't need to talk about this. There was a time where I would put the Langoliers on, and I put it on like every day for like a month, and I would always fall asleep at the same exact part, and now I have like the first 20 minutes of the Langoliers memorized, and it really triggers me. Listen. The word Langoliers triggers me now. Never mind the movie. Great show, 5 out of 5. I mean, that's how these people are. Very good. I really enjoyed it. 5 out of 5. I can't. Oh my god, it's very triggering to me now. It is very triggering to me now. Despite a mediocre plot, the cast and soundtrack carry the show. A 4 out of 5. You can't say. You can't give something a 4 out of 5 and then say the plot is mediocre. The plot is what matters. It's not the best. I fucking hate people. It's not the best fantasy TV show, but it is better than new Game of Thrones or Rings of Power. But you gave it a 5 out of 5. You gave it a 5 out of 5, though. I can't stand people. I think reading the 5 stars are kind of funny. Very good TV show. Not as dark as the main one, but if you watch it like a fairy tale, you'll have a great time. Spoonie, what the fuck does that mean? Brother. What does that mean? If you watch it like a fairy tale, you'll have a great time. Okay, sure. You overthink and overanalyze too much. Yeah, that's clearly me. I don't understand the bad reviews. Based on reading a couple of pages of them, I think there's a group of disgruntled fans who are upset that Cavill left The Witcher, and that changes have been made from the books. This is the problem. This is the problem. Changes should not be made from the books. You should be following the books, not disregarding the books and the games and the source material. You should be loving them and respecting them, and that's not what they did with this. That's not what they've done at all. And that's the problem. It's really hard to find 5 stars. I mean, I know the score's at a 8%, but it is really hard to find some scores here. I want to read the positives. Someone has to be in these comments leaving like a 4 or 5 star, and they explain it. I loved it so much. For real? For real? With the question mark? The actors were amazing. It was fun and exciting to see major characters much before the action of the main series. The story was compelling. The actors had amazing chemistry with each other. The costuming was lovely. The music was lovely. And I genuinely enjoyed it. I'm very excited to see how Lauren and team will explore the Witcher universe and main story arcs. And in the meantime, I'll be rereading the books and playing The Witcher 3. See, this is how I know that you haven't even read the books. Never mind reread the books. Because if you had read the books or played the games, you would be upset with the show. I am not convinced that there is anybody out there in any franchise or series that reads the original material or plays the original game and then says, I'm okay with the changes that they made because it was supposed to be different. I'm just not convinced. And you have one fucking review. Millie. It was great. But due to there only being 4 episodes, it does feel rushed, or it skips things. Oh, it's rushed and skips things? 5 star. I loved it. I'm glad I didn't let the bad reviews decide for me. Acting's great. Characters are likable. Soundtrack is fire. Great cast and acting. Very pleased. The most generic review I could leave. 5 out of 5. Thanks, Sarah. 1.5 star out of 5. I can't get these hours of my life back. Total snooze fest. Equilibrium. I will agree. Equilibrium's a hot 5 out of 5. Okay, you know what, Sarah? Cool. Equilibrium is great. And that's a hot take, I think. Not The Witcher. How can you start something off with saying it's not the source material and then it's a 4 out of 5? I thought the story behind this was very good. The production is great as well. The production is great. That's an interesting thing to say. How often do we give credit to production? How do they know that the production was great? Or do they mean production as in like the content? I'm assuming that's what they mean. Some very good performances. My only dislike is the accents, being Scottish, and I hate hearing a Scottish accent. Oh, everybody, you screenshot this and you tweet this. This person is a bigot, sexist, ableist, anti-Scottish fuck, and they gave it a 5 out of 5. The people who like the show are sexist, toxic idiots, okay? We need to flame them on Twitter, okay? They hate hearing Scottish accents. Actually a fucking bigot. Let's write a whole article saying that fans of The Witcher Blood Origins are bigots because of this person. Lori, you just fucked your career online. Everybody's gonna hate you. Lori hates Scottish people. That is awful. 5 out of 5. I love this. I wish there were more than 4 episodes. Okay, so if you're saying there's not enough content, why would you give it a 5 out of 5? I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I reserve 5 out of 5s. You know, I don't give 5 out of 5s. I only give like the top % of shit 5 out of 5s. Like, I'd give Elden Ring a 5 out of 5. I'd give the Lord of the Rings movies 5 out of 5s. But these people will give a 5 out of 5 even if something's half-assed. I don't understand. A 5 out of 5? Read the books if the audience wants something word for word. A 6? Bitch ass. A 6 or a 7 out of 10 when you're giving it a 5 out of 5. I mean, I understand that people want to counteract negative reviews, but people are so stupid. I can't lie. Ooh, pretty colors and people speak 5 stars. I mean, it's just Cloud World. Anyway, guys, I'll be wrapping up stream in like 5 minutes. If you have any questions, topics to discuss, feel free to put them in chat. Thanks for being here. Have you shared your thoughts on Hogwarts Legacy? Yes, we covered it about 15 minutes. No, I'd say like 20 to 25 minutes ago. Loved it. Hope to see more like this. A 5 out of 5. I bet your bottom dollar Matt has reviewed nothing else. I stand corrected. Matt did, in fact, review something else. Matt, you troll. 5 out of 5 for Rings of Power Season 1. Definitely a real account. Definitely somebody real. For sure. Surely. Matt loves the Rings of Power as well. Definitely not a fake account. I really enjoyed this show and wish it had more episodes. It exists 1,200 years before Geralt exists. Get over it. Okay, Maureen. Again, yes, there are people who are flaming it because Henry Cavill is no longer Geralt and people are upset, but the problem is that the show itself is just dog shit. Will you make a video on it? I might. I don't think it'll be tomorrow, but it might be the next day. I do think I probably will share or do a video on the Hogwarts Legacy, you know, new wave of hit pieces, but I have covered a couple of the waves, so yeah. Yeah, I bet that he loved Wheel of Time as well. Not great, but much better than the 8%. A 4.5 out of 5. I just don't understand. I just don't get it. Come on, there's got to be some more 5s here. Surely people like this show. I mean, this show's great. I loved it. Super fun and awesome. 4 out of 5. Short and sweet, leaving you longing for more. I think that you're alone there, Harry. I don't think that anyone else wants any more. I think you are the only person in existence. You know what? I stand corrected. Actually, I bet Lauren wants more. Thank you, Mr. Toxicity, for the 11 months, almost a year, as a Bronze Titan. I did hear about the Melody Mac situation. I don't know a lot about it, though. But, stalkers are gonna stalk, and people are fucking crazy. But thank you for the 11 months. Haters gonna hate, so you don't mind those. The show is terrific. It's a fabulous prequel to the Witcher series. Highly recommend. It's the only thing they've written. Well, chat, with that being said, I'm gonna wrap up the stream here. thank you all so much for stopping by tonight. I do really appreciate it. Thank you for stopping by and listening to the clown world topics we have talked about. Thank you, Rover, for the end of
really
stream
low
donation.
Effort stream. You can do better. 5 out of 5.
Actually true. Actually true. The lowest effort anyone's ever put into a stream, and it is honestly the best stream that anyone's ever done. Thank you, Rover, for the $50 donation. I do really appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. But, yeah, guys, I'm gonna wrap up the stream here. Thanks for stopping by. I didn't upload a video today, but of course I did yesterday, the past few days. There will be new videos tomorrow. Check out links in the description. Follow me on social media, Twitter, Minds, BitChute, Odyssey, Getter. Join our Discord server. We're very active there, and I do tag you all when I go live in case YouTube doesn't notify you of the streams. Next live stream will be on Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern. I don't know what I'll be streaming yet. Of course, if you guys have any suggestions, let me know. But yeah, next stream Thursday, new videos tomorrow, all that fun stuff. And maybe next week for the discussion stream, we'll have some positivity. I'm going to try my very best for the beginning of the year. Next Tuesday will be the first discussion stream of the year. I'm going to try to find positive topics. Positive. 2023, I'm becoming a journalist. I'm becoming a social justice warrior. I want to fight for the good of the people. And we're only going to cover positive news. Surely. Or maybe not, because that sounds cringe. Okay, guys. Thank you for stopping by. Check out links in the description. Thank you for the donations and the support. And have a fantastic evening, everyone.